Hello and welcome back to the Nine Sports Podcast. I am your host, Maya Smith. Today I am joined by basically the co host of this podcast at this point.
Alyssa.
Welcome back to the show.
What an honor. Thank you so much. I always get so excited when I get texts from you. It just in general, but when it's about the pod, it's like, hey, are you available? I'm like, always. Literally
Thank you.
always. I love
Basically,
chatting with you and I love getting to chat about this league and the sport and yeah, it's my pleasure, it's my honor, and I'm happy to be here.
thank you. Basically, when I have like nothing team specific, I'm just like, okay, Alyssa, you're tasked to be
Slot
here.
me in.
And Alyssa is kindly modeling the PWHL Detroit expansion team hat for
Let's
everybody, which,
go.
if you're watching on YouTube, which is going to be pretty on topic for today because we are recording this on Wednesday evening, and on Wednesday, kind of like mid afternoon, the league confirmed basically what we had said about expansion a couple weeks ago, and the Ice Garden received a document basically detailing what the process was going to be. But we have new dates, we have new GMs and coaches since then. So let's just jump right in. And we're actually going to start off with player salaries for the number one at the nine. So the number one at the nine, the top headline of the week, the PWHL so the Players Association, voted to release the player salaries from this past season. This has never been done in the league before, but in other leagues where they have disclosed all of the salary information, wages have gone up. So this is a really good thing, and it's great that the players were able to, kind of take this step for themselves. And there's a lot in there, I will say. I think I said I was a little bit shocked, not necessarily that I don't know the status of how women get paid in women's sports, but to see it all laid out there and to see the best players in the world making less money than some of us make sitting at an office all day was just shocking to me. We do have a whole article about it on the Nine Sports. Some highlights, or I guess some lights. I don't know if they're highlights from the story. So the league spent a collective $11.1 million in player salaries last year. Every team had one player making six figures, at least one player, except for the Vancouver Golden Eyes, which is interesting. We also learned that Emily Clark is the highest paid player in the league, which is a little bit surprising, but we did know that players like Poulin have taken kind of hometown discounts, as they would say, to kind of keep the team together and play at home. But I'm interested to hear what you thought, Alyssa, about the numbers, but also kind of about how the money was distributed across the league.
I was really stoked to get that notification and to see that it was public and live. And I spent the first few minutes on the site just scrolling. I literally just went alphabetical order and I just scrolled, and there was a few, obviously a handful of things that just stuck out to me. And then learning Clarky is the number one most paid player. Not that I was shocked, but I think what makes it so interesting is she deserves all of that and more. And then it was just really interesting. And then there were some players, some of the goalie numbers really intrigued me. Daryl Watts making way less than I ever thought she would make.
Same.
And I think that was a big testament to me about how badly she wanted to come home, because there were reports that Ottawa, after season one, wanted her back really badly. I had heard that offered her up to six figures. And I also think it's really important to, I have so many thoughts, I'm not gonna lie to you, Maya. I keep going back and forth because I've seen this league both from a fan perspective, a media member perspective, and even league employee perspective, from all the different leagues. I've seen this sport go from like the CWHL days when they had a China team, players having to take PTO to go to China to play, and there's I just have so many thoughts. Like like I genuinely like think I could talk about it for hours, and I'd probably spin in circles because like it's information we've never had.
Mhm.
Um and it's shocking, but also like I'm not shocked.
Exactly. I think that's how I feel too. Like
Really weird.
when you see it all laid out like that, on one hand it's like, wow, we are paying, or the league is paying $126,000 for Emily Clark to play hockey for a season. That's insane
It's
compared
amazing.
to what players 10, 15 years ago were
Mhm.
making. And then also when
100%.
you look at players like Katie Chan, for example, on the Golden Eyes, who are making $37,000 a year, then you kind of go like, damn, like that's
Mhm.
really not that much above having a second job and playing hockey. Clearly, these players have
Yeah.
been making it work. There are also like league stipends, housing stipends, and bonuses that we don't know about. Um, but I was listening to Jeff Merrick this morning, and he said basically like anytime a league has done this, it has only been like good for the salaries in the
Yeah.
long run, and players can now see like who they're negotiating against. The interesting thing for me, I'm just pulling up the tweet here. TD Kelly, I think is their name. T underscore Kelly 15, who's like very big on the Ottawa Charge kind of fandom, put a spreadsheet together and calculated like the average salary per position. And the one that really shocked me was the goalies are the lowest paid, and their average is
Mhm.
$53,000 a year. And that was just kind of crazy to me. Like, considering that the level of goaltending in the PWHL is like unfathomably high, and then you
Yeah.
see these players that are like making nothing for being these
Yeah.
people, you know.
Yeah, that shocked me too. Like seeing Kirk on the Sceptres making as little as she
Mhm.
did, like that really, really, really shocked me. Like she makes less than Elaine Chuli does, and Elaine Chuli is the second goalie. And like
Yeah.
mind you, Elaine Chuli has been, in professional hockey for a decade. Like it's like all that, but like that really shocked me. The goalies was a really big eye opening thing for me.
Mhm.
Um because I like you just said, like they're the save percentage numbers, the everything, like it's absurd, like it's like historic levels of goaltending. um yeah, I have so many thoughts surrounding this entire thing. um we also don't know, and again, this is so separate, like so this is what they make at the league level, but like you also have to consider that some of these players maybe took less. Like I'm thinking about a Daryl Watts here. This is, I'm not thinking about like players who are making 30K. I'm thinking about like the Daryl Watts of the PWHL who make like about 60K. um like she is a Hockey Canada player, so she gets like
Mhm.
on the side, and I understand it's not PWHL money. She also, is a Bauer athlete. She has sponsorship. She has like her, like it's still NIL, it's just not in college. Like she has her name, image,
Mhm.
and likeness make money for her as well. But it's just there are so many things in that site that just really shocked me. But overall, I can't get over how great of a thing this is for the sport.
Mhm.
And for the league, this is first of its kind. Women's hockey has never had a CBA. So like that was a big thing for the PWHL, and the PWHL Players Association was to ensure that they had a CBA. And this like is massive. Like it's along those lines, and I won't be shocked when we start to see, now that we have access to public salaries and stuff. Like I don't I hope, but I also think at times that those low 30Ks aren't going to be the norm. I think
Mhm.
it's going to go up, and I think it's going to go up really pretty quickly. I'm not going to lie to you. I think the quickness and expansion, I know a lot of fans have a lot of worries in that, but I personally don't. Like I've seen this sport, um like I Emily Clark's actually a really interesting one, that she's the highest paid player in the PWHL, because I remember when the CWHL folded, so it folded at the end of the 2018-2019 season. So that season was Emily Clark's last college season. And that's really important because at that point, we still thought the CWHL would exist. And it was talked about for months that she would go first overall in the CWHL draft. And back then, in drafts, it wasn't like, take the best available. It was where is this player able to live? But with an Emily Clark, because she's a national team player, she just won a bunch of natties at Wisconsin. Um, it was pretty well known that she would go first overall. But I think about that. I'm like, okay, if there was another season there, if they played the 2019-2020 season, Emily Clark goes first overall. I bet you right now she wasn't even making 20K a year. I would say she probably
Mhm.
been making about 12K a year. And like, that even might be stretching it. Like, I genuinely might be stretching it. So there's a lot of growth. And like, mind you, that was 6 years ago. Like, that was so, like, 6 years is a long time, and like a lot has happened in the world and in the hockey world, but like we've come a long way. And then I've also heard the argument of like, well, like the PHF, like, like they were signing like 6-figure contracts. Like, yes, but also the PHF was running under a model where they kind of knew that they were going to be bought out for a couple years, and they were signing those contracts knowing that they weren't going to be fulfilled. So like, scummy, but also like, they still had to try and fit rosters in. They were individually owned by private equities, where we don't really know a lot where the money came from. Maybe dirty Russian money, who knows? So like, I've heard that argument too of like, like, but they had this, and like Daryl Watts was like the top Pele player, like after like thinking she was retiring. I'm like, yes, but it wasn't guaranteed. And this is really exciting. It is a little disheartening,
Yeah.
and like I've seen like a lot of comparisons and stuff, and all valid. I, I don't think we're going to be seeing those low values for too long, is all I'm trying to get at here.
Yeah, a net positive for sure. And as you said, there are so
100%.
many things to think about. I think we're going to be seeing things like, I mean, one of the things that came out right away when we saw um, the numbers for Emily Clark is she didn't have a very good season this year, and she didn't have a
Hmm.
very strong playoffs. And so, in the past, it was like a player versus player kind of stats. But now you're going to see people say, well, is that player worth $126,000? Or
Hmm.
we saw the one of the higher paid players on the Golden Eyes is Teresa Vanisova, and I don't think she had that strong of a
That
season
really
this past
shocked
year.
me.
Me too. Like, she was making more
Yeah.
than Sarah Nurse, more than Emran
Hmm.
Smashmeyer, and I think we're going to see a lot more of those comparisons. Um, I'm also going to have Mike, who runs the Ice Garden, join next week to talk about this, and he has been putting in like so much work on salaries, not just in the PWHL, but for years that has been his thing. So we'll definitely talk about this a little bit more. I think more things will come out. Players will probably talk about it a little bit. And with expansion coming, there's going to be more money talk. So this is
100%.
always going to be something to talk about.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be
But
ever changing. Like, I think it's just
mhm,
gonna and like, I want people to know that like, are saying like, it's like, this isn't a good thing that they're making so little. Like, yes, you're right. However, like, it's hard because I want to be like, oh my god, we've come so far, but also like, players should not be making just above the poverty line. Like, so like, I struggle with this a little bit because I'm like, I go back and forth, but I just trying to remind myself of like, okay, this league would not be as successful as it was if these players didn't buy in and sign those contracts. Like,
mhm,
if they truly thought that there wasn't a future of more money, of more opportunity, like, they wouldn't be here. They would go somewhere
yeah,
else. They would go overseas, or they unfortunately would retire from hockey. So like, I keep reminding myself that, but it's a really interesting conversation, especially from the fan level. Like, I think all the like complaints and shock is valid, but I also like want people to just like be like, hold on a little bit here. Like, I promise
yeah,
you. And like, also, I think it's really important to realize, in order for these players to get more money, a lot of the landscape of how the sport is covered is going to change. Um,
mhm,
the YouTube stream is a fantastic service. It reminds me so much of the Twitch stream in the NWHL bubble days. It is a tight knit community and is so much fun. And kudos to the PWHL YouTube and broadcast team, who do a phenomenal job at moderating those chats and creating a community. However, the fact that we don't have a national um, rights holder in the United States consistently is something that needs to happen, because that is something where that happens, we're going to see less players making 30K. So like, and
absolutely.
I've seen a lot of people be like, if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. But like, it's going to be, ads on helmets, ads on jerseys,
Mm-hmm.
ads everywhere. And like, I'm not a fan of the Wegovy and the weight loss drugs and the betting ads. And I very much am not a fan of those in from the sense of like a value standpoint. Like I just like it feels achy to me.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you would have told me that these gajillion dollar companies would be putting those ads for women's hockey like years ago, like I did work for the Connecticut Whale. I did some sponsorship work. I did some for the Buffalo Buttes. Like we were scratching and clawing at local breweries to give us like
Mm-hmm.
bits and pieces. We put their logo on the score graphic and like mind like it's come a long way, but I think there's going to be some shock to what needs to happen for growth. So all that to
Yeah.
say, complaints are valid. However, um, we live in a 2026 world where money makes the world go round, logos make the world go round, and I think just don't be shocked when you start to see more. And this isn't me saying the Wegovy logo is going to be on Marie Philippe Poulain's helmet. That's not what I'm saying.
But it's
That
one
is
of
not
those
what I'm
things
saying.
that is showing kind of the progression of the growth of the league.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's all a good thing. Like I think they knew what they were doing when they released these salaries to the public. They knew what the feedback would be. The players wanted this. That's also a big thing to remind
Hmm.
ourselves. The players wanted this,
Yeah.
and if that's what the players want, I'm all for it. Like I'm willing to wait. I'm willing to like I hearing was it game 3 when Ottawa took the lead with that Rebecca Leslie goal in the last final minute of game 3 to start
Hmm.
off elimination,
We're
like
live.
that crowd pop, I almost started crying. Like I was just like, I didn't watch it live. I watched the video like an hour or so after, and like I literally had like the hair on the back of my like neck. Like I was like, this never existed in my world, and it's so like late, but like the sky is the limit for this league, and I think the salaries like just hold on a little bit longer here,
Yeah.
folks. Like
It's coming.
it's going to make sense, and I won't be shocked if this league is made like this the on an average across like rosters, like if some of these players are making consistently more than WNBA players here soon. Not to say that they're going to be
We
making $1 million a year, but like I think it'll go quicker. Like the WNBA
Yeah.
just started paying top players $1 million a year, and it's
Mhm.
year 30.
Yeah.
We're heading into year
Yeah.
4. Like this is like really good. Like this is a really exciting opportunity for this league and the sport. Just have a little patience and just trust it and keep supporting. Like keep
Exactly.
supporting as much as you can.
That's how the salaries go up. Really good points. Speaking of year four, 12 teams in year four. And we're kind of starting to see how these teams are going to look, these new expansion teams. So we have Detroit. We don't know a coach yet. There are rumors that one of New York's assistant coaches will be heading there. That's not confirmed at the time of this recording. But Manon Rheaume is going to be the GM. And that's like insane to me and
The
amazing. Like
coolest thing.
if you know nothing about women's sports, you know who she is.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's so great. I've heard she's really done some amazing things in the Detroit women's girls hockey community. So it's like full circle, so exciting.
She's also such a
Um
smart hockey mind. Like
mhm.
people know her as the first woman to play in an NHL preseason game, and like yeah, but she's a genius. Like she's really really smart. And she's also just a heck of a person, and I'm really stoked for that hire.
Me too. Um Hamilton, Megan Duggan is going to be the GM. And then breaking news
Okay.
from today, Kris Sparre is leaving the Boston Fleet after 1 year to coach in Hamilton. One of
Wild.
our one of our colleagues, Lydia, who covers the Fleet, she said that his family actually didn't come with him to Boston this season
Mm-hmm.
because his wife was pregnant and they didn't want to leave Canada. And so it's really more of a homecoming for him than a like wanting to leave Boston, it seems like. But he, in my mind, is coach of the year this year. He
Mm-hmm.
was the top of my ballot, and that's a huge pickup for Hamilton.
Yeah, I just looked it up. He's from Mississauga. So it's a homecoming. Mississauga and
Hmm.
Hamilton, about 20, 40 minutes away from each other, depending on traffic.
Yeah.
So really exciting there. I agree with you, Coach of the Year. One of my favorite things to watch was his. They do like the Boston Fleet did like post game locker room videos, and like you can tell the players love him. You can tell he cares about his process, and I think that's a great hire.
I agree.
And
And
also
Megan
Megan Duggan, are
Duggan
you
as
kidding
well.
me? Welcome back to
Yeah.
women's hockey, Megan. Let's go. That's so exciting.
Yeah, that's it's gonna be great. And I also just love to see more women getting these like high level jobs in the
Mhm.
league as well. And then Vegas, we don't know about the coach yet, but Dominique Didier, she was a scout for a number of years and a player agent. She will be the GM there. Uh, Again, just like another great smart mind who like understands this kind of stuff. And if I learned anything this season from covering the Golden Eyes, it's that expansion is not an easy thing to manage. And so having these like really, really smart GMs coming in here who have, player negotiation knowledge,
Mhm.
hockey knowledge, all of those things, it's going to be great.
Yeah, like, and I hate to do these comparisons, but it's sometimes the only comparison we have. But like, I think of there's the GM of the Canadians, Kent Hughes.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
pretty sure he used to be a agent. Like, so like this is pretty normal across hockey. Like, and I love that hire. I think it's a great hire.
Mhm. Me too. Okay. And then San Jose decided to go out of the box here and they decided to hire Troy Ryan as both coach and GM. You might remember him as the former coach of Team Canada, as it was confirmed this week he will not be back as the head coach of Team Canada, and also the head coach of the Toronto Sceptres for the last 3 years. So I think like people were reporting it a little bit before it broke, and I was like, no, you're messing with me. And then here we are. So
A little two for one.
yeah.
Really interesting. I will say something about Troy. I've been pretty critical in, in a valid way. I think his players love playing for him. I think where I've been a little bit critical is like the usage and just some tactics and stuff. And but I will say something about Troy Ryan that I've always loved is I love hearing him just talk about the game of hockey. He is
Mhm.
such a smart hockey mind, like genuinely, like so I could see this turning into, he's GM coach for year one and then goes into a GM role and then they hire maybe it's like a mentorship thing. I don't know how to use
Mhm.
mentorship, but like, maybe one of their assistants is someone who they see as a future head coach. Like I don't hate it. It's just different.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't hate it
But it's
either.
also
And
like not out of the ordinary. Like junior hockey does this, ECHL does this. Like it's, um, I'm really intrigued. I don't think it's a bad
mhm.
idea. I will say. I think like
No,
it's just interesting, and I'm intrigued to see how it goes. Like I don't think it's going to be the worst thing, but I also don't know if it's going to be the best thing either.
I agree. I think my two concerns, I also have been critical of him in the past, and I do think that when the pieces all fit together, he's a really excellent coach. As you said, players like him. He has a very, good reputation. I think if you're trying to get players to come sign with you, like he's a great guy to kind of be doing that. My two concerns are since roster management is one of the things that we've often critiqued about him in the past, now having like full control over that roster management, both who the team is and how they're deployed, is a little concerning to me. And then also like as I said earlier, expansion is a lot of work, and
Mhm.
I just worry about his about dealing with all of that as the head coach and the GM. But I also don't think the league would have agreed to that if they didn't think he could do that.
Yeah.
So.
One thing I'm really intrigued with this is the opportunity for him to get a fresh start. So
Mhm.
like, he's been in Toronto since year one of the league. He's been with Hockey Canada since pretty much COVID. And then in Hockey Canada, worked alongside his GM, who was in Toronto with him as well. And I think I'm really excited to see what Troy Ryan can do with a fresh slate. Like truly, like
Mhm.
um, I think he's got a lot of pressure on him, and I think he knows that. And I a part of me thinks that he likes that pressure, and I think he's
Yeah.
probably, and I don't know him personally. I've only talked to him through being a media member and like have read articles, and I know that his players love playing for him. But I'm really intrigued to see what Troy Ryan can do with a fresh start, in a new city, in a new country. In a city that is loves hockey, has always
Hmm.
loved hockey since their NHL team is there, but is as of late like has really rallied behind the growth of hockey. And um again, I don't hate it. Like I don't hate it. It's just gonna be interesting. I
Yeah.
if it fails, I won't be shocked. If it does, if they do well, I also won't be shocked. Like I'm just
Mhm.
really intrigued to see how it goes. But yeah, that is a little bit of a red flag,
Definitely.
but I guess we'll see.
Yeah. Also worth just kind of flagging that, Kris Sparre being in Hamilton, Troy Ryan being in San Jose, um, keeping an eye out for the players that they might look to take from Boston and from Toronto, or
Mhm.
from Team Canada to build out their new teams. I think we could definitely see a lot of Team Canada players or Toronto players on San Jose for sure. Speaking of which, we'll just kind of wrap up here with some discussion about the expansion kind of process. I'll link down below the like 5.5 minute discussion that I had with myself in another podcast episode about like all the phases and what they mean and stuff. But we're kicking off phase one today as you're listening to this, May 28th. Teams have to put together a list of 10 players, both from their own team and from other teams. That they want to sign in this first phase. So we should know by kind of the end of today or early on Friday what the teams are looking at for their kind of first three protection slots that they have, where they can either re-sign UFAs or protect players that are currently under contract. And that will all kind of start after that up until June 3rd. And then we'll kind of progress through the different phases of, the expansion teams issuing their lists of who they're looking at, their franchise offers, their player offers, all the way up to the draft, which will be on June 17th. And then after the draft on the 19th is when like the free for all open signing period will start. We're going to have articles about those things for each team from the beat writers here at the Ice Garden. I've been working on mine for Vancouver, who have so many unanswered questions. I'm just really glad I'm not a GM, is basically what I'll say. But
Oh my
do you have
god.
any thoughts, Alyssa, just about this
Yeah,
process?
my
And
thoughts are I'm confused.
yeah,
Like
real.
I was reading it actually literally like an hour and a half ago.
Hmm.
And I'm like, I understand it, but I don't understand it. I need someone to explain it to me like I'm 5. Um, I think as the process goes, I'm going to understand it more. However, it's different than last year. I think they learned a lot from that process. They heard the complaints from the players, they heard the complaints from the fans, they heard the complaints from the teams. Even though looking back, like the 2 expansion
Didn't really
teams
matter, but
didn't really matter.
yeah.
I think it's a good happy median, like of like this makes more sense than what it was last year. I'm still confused though.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it will make more sense kind of as the rounds go.
Hmm.
The only confirmation that we have right now is for some reason, Danielle Sauvageau decided to tell everybody who they were going to protect earlier today in media availability. So Montreal will be protecting Poulin, Stacy, and Desbiens. Not really any
Shocker.
surprises there. I'm curious, Alyssa, if you just kind of have like a couple players you think, you know, need to be protected or risk getting those like big offers from these franchise teams other than Poulin, Stacy.
Yeah, I think a big one for me is Megan Keller in Boston.
Mhm.
I could really see Detroit, like really see Detroit pushing for
Yeah.
that. Um, yeah, that's a big one. Like I think losing your captain 2 years in a row to an expansion team would be pretty hard. If I was a Boston Fleet fan, I
Mhm.
wouldn't be too happy.
Yeah.
That is one. I'm intrigued by goalies. like
Mm-hmm.
a Phillips. Um, I'm really intrigued by that. There's some players where like they're free agents, and I really do think they're just going to sign with a team. Like Sarah Nurse, I'm pretty sure that contract's already written. She just needs to sign on a dotted line in Hamilton. Like
Yeah.
I really do. Like that's just Hamilton born and raised. Like it just makes sense. I really think Abby Rock might come to Detroit, and that's not me
Mhm.
being like I know this. It's just
No.
like I was listening to her availability after a Detroit takeover game last season, so not this past season. She was with
Mhm.
New York, and like she talks about how much she used to come to the Joe as a kid, and like I just think if it works, it works. But yeah, expansion wise though, like Megan Keller is one, Gwyneth Phillips is another. Um, I think about a player like Kelly Panic. Like there's like just like a sleeper pick there. Um, yeah,
It's
it's gonna be
hard.
really interesting. I don't know, and like again,
Mhm.
I think because there's so many free agents this summer, I'm really struggling to pick a few players here, but those are just a
Absolutely.
few off the top of my head that I'm keeping an eye out for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I think we often, as either media and or fans, underestimate the desire for these players to play at home. That was one of the things I learned this year, covering
Mhm.
Vancouver. The players who are from BC playing here is just another level of a dream come true,
Mhm.
which I think kind of leads to your talk about Rock, Keller, players like that, Nurse, who might try and see those dreams come true. I will say, in terms of goalies, I'll give a sneak peek to my article. I do have Vancouver protecting one of their goalies going into next season, but definitely stay tuned for all of that, and we'll do our best to break down each phase as we go along here. But yeah, that is all for today. Thank you so much for being here, Alyssa, and breaking down all of these things,
Yeah, I was
salaries,
a little I don't
GMs.
want to use the word nervous, but like I knew I would have a gajillion run-on sentences about the salaries because like I've it's been so up and down of like my thoughts. Like I keep going back to so many different thoughts about it. So thank you for having me on and letting me just
Of
word
course.
vomit everywhere. I don't know if any of it made sense, but I was happy to be here.
I love it. And maybe we need an Alyssa column coming soon from the Ice Garden with your thoughts. But
Absolutely.
we'll definitely
Yeah,
see.
absolutely.
And yeah, if you do want to stay tuned to all of this news, we'll break down everything as best as we can here, as well as on the Ice Garden Instagram and TikTok, and on the Nine Sports website. A subscription there helps keep things like this going, and people like Dylan going to the finals and things like that.
So
So we
cool.
really appreciate it. So awesome. Thanks again, Alyssa, and we'll see you guys next week.